in the Arizona Cardinals, this is what our team's going to be. We're going to be adaptable. We're going to be violent. We're going to be explosive, and we're going to be smart. We will maximize the talents of the players that we have, and that's how we're going to win games. And don't get it twisted, we're going to win games.
Rebuilding the Arizona Cardinals. How many times have you heard that line?
All those guys have elevated their game. So a lot of those guys are playing meaningful snaps for us right now, and it's good to see them out there playing.
Whether it's coming from another YouTuber who believes that they can place themselves in a GM's lap and take over, all the way to sportscasters just outright calling the team trash.
They are a disaster of a franchise.
I think that last night he was atrocious. It was the worst performance I've seen of his career.
This team has been in the dumps for a while now. So it's natural for people involved in the sports world to give their 2 cents on it. How to fix the situation, who to draft, who to sign, who to cut. While hundreds of football internet warriors have played their hands at trying to fix this consistently disappointing team, it's decided only by the management how they want to go about bringing greatness to this organization. So, how have they been doing?
Face faces. Who drove over here? Let me see your hands. Who took the bus? Did you have fire in your gut?
What are you talking about? Instagram is an interesting place. You see a couple videos on the internet without context and just decide entirely how you feel about a thing or person, and that's exactly what happened when these videos of Jonathan Gannon popped up. I very quickly developed an opinion. That opinion I held was that this team is going to be dog water. And they were, right? In the 2023 NFL season, the Arizona Cardinals went 4-13. They boasted the 26th passing offense by yards and 4th in terms of rushing yards. Their defense ranked 12th in passing yards allowed, while the run defense was dead last in the league, ranking 32nd. Now, I could read a bunch of stats off right now in an attempt to prove my point as to why the estimated EPA per play for the Cardinals was this or that they had the 14th most unexpected divergent average rushes per game or whatever. I don't want to do that though. One of the main reasons I'm looking at the Cardinals and expecting a glow up is due to the intangibles, because Jonathan Gannon was able to do something I truly wasn't expecting. That thing is establishing a culture. We all expected the Cardinals to suck this year, and for the most part they did, but I don't think everyone was expecting them to suck the way they did. They lost with style. They fought tooth and nail, clawed out the wins that they had, even made an upset happen. A couple, at that matter. There were a lot of guys on this team showing grit and hard work, and none less than the man of the hour. James Conner in 13 games this season had 1,040 yards, 7 touchdowns, 459 yards after contact. He averaged 5 yards a carry. Again, while those stats are great, and there's tons of more advanced stats from James Conner you could look at to oogle and be impressed, that's not why I'm calling him out or looking at this team in the way that I am. I'm looking at this team and James Conner specifically because of the way he ran throughout the year, how hard he was putting himself into the game and risking his body. I mean, he was one of the most angry runners of this year. The dude from Good Morning Football can attest to it. He was on angry runs quite a bit.
This is a scepter! This is an angry scepter! All the cool kids got one!
He was running downhill the whole season. He gave the vibe of an undrafted rookie free agent fighting for a roster spot, and that was how a lot of the team played. To be fair, most of them were undrafted rookie free agents fighting for a roster spot, but it's the mentality that was important to me. I wish it wasn't some imaginary invisible thing that was garnering my projection of future success in my eyes from the Cardinals, but that's the most important thing for this team right now, an established culture, and it's seemingly that's what they have. And last year we saw that with Dan Campbell. I think we could see something semi-similar with the Cardinals. Like I said, I'll get more into my projections for them in the future.
Can you guys turn the TV down a little bit, please?
James Conner played the whole season like he had something to prove, and to be fair, he did have something to prove. and I believe that he showed that he meant business this season. There's something that feels special about this Cardinals team, and honestly, that's why I'm making this video. The fact that last season I saw players actually fighting for their coach Jonathan Gannon, as opposed to what we saw with Cliff Kingsbury a little bit, which was fighting against Cliff Kingsbury. I think they're in a little bit better hands now. But do keep in mind, this does come with some caveats. Now, I finally get to play GM and put my Madden rebuilding skills to use. First, let's talk salary cap. The Cardinals' expected salary cap is set at around $52 million, which is a lot to work with. First, I'm going to take 60 of that cap, and I'm going to give it to myself because I want to buy the new NCAA game that's coming out soon. It looks really fun, and I earned it. Next, let's go over roster cuts. There aren't a whole lot, but I'll start with the releasing Zach Pascal, which will save us $1.9 million, bringing our total close to 54. While saving money isn't my hugest priority, I just don't see a place for Pascal on this team. I'm going to get into draft stuff later, but based off my plans with the draft, as well as other pieces on this team I'd like to use, such as Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, this receiving room will be full in my eyes. Along with that, we aren't going to provide contracts for Marquise Brown or Rondale Moore. I'm fine with letting Brown walk this season. He hasn't proven much, and I'm not willing to pay his expected value, so he's gone. Rondale Moore will finish his contract out this season. He's contracted to the 25 season as well, so I'll let the future decide if he gets a contract. As I mentioned with Greg Dortch, I plan to have him be a part of this receiving core. I'll play it on the safe side and give him a 2-year deal worth $4 million. We'll pay him 1.3 of that this year. I'm a Dortch truther. I think he can finally succeed in this offense and has the capability to be a really solid athletic number 3 guy. I'm also going to give Yall a contract. He's an excellent fit for this team and was a super solid center for them. He's a big mover in the run game, and that's going to be important for them. We'll give him a 2-year deal as well, worth about $5.5 million, and we'll go ahead and pay through $1 million for this next season. After those adjustments and signings, we're looking at a little over $49 million in cap space left. Frohold's contract isn't due to the end of next season. I just want to represent what guys I find to be important for this team to include. So technically, there aren't any changes to the cap for this season, as long as we make that contract by the end of this 25 season. So we're still at about $52 million in cap space. Let's move to free agency next. I want to address the offensive line in some way. The main position missing is left guard, so I'll fill that by signing Robert Hunt from the Miami Dolphins. His expected value by SpotRack.com is $11.8 million per year on a 4-year contract. I'm fine with signing that. I know it's a lot of money to pay a guard, but our priority this season is keeping Kyler Murray healthy and maintaining a top-notch run game, so it's money well spent. Hunt is a right guard, and I'd like to keep him there, so either Will Hernandez will move to the left side, or we'll find someone who will. Next, I want to move to the defense. Let's start with the defensive front. I'm going to be targeting DJ Reader from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's been one of the most consistent nose tackles the last few years. At the age of 29, he's on the latter end of development for himself. Regardless, he's still been very productive and effective in slowing down the run game for opposing offenses, which will be huge for this Cardinal team, whom I mentioned was 32nd in run D last season. His expected contract is 3 years, $45 mil. That's about $15 mil for this year. I'm also going to get cornerback Steven Nelson from the Houston Texans. This defense is stupid young all around, but it's especially young in the secondary. So, bringing someone like Steven Nelson in, who is a seasoned vet, is awesome for the development and stability of this defense. He's expected to sign a 1-year deal worth $7 million. I'm fine with making it 2 years, but most of the guaranteed money will be denoted in this first year. That way he's a viable cut candidate for the next season if he really starts to show age. After those signings and some extra roster cuts to the practice squad level guys and unneeded backups, we're looking at about $22 million in cap space. I didn't make a lot of drastic moves in free agency. I was more looking to use free agency to establish some veteran stability in the core parts of this team, both sides of the trenches as well as the secondary. These older pieces will hopefully help keep us afloat while we prepare and develop the Cardinals in the future, which is going to start with the 2024 NFL Draft. So, let's start drafting. I want the draft section of this video to be realistic and fair while also getting the ideal guys for this team given the picks the Cardinals have in this draft. I'm not doing any trades because I figured that would get tedious. I made the picks of players that I did by running a few different mock draft simulators and seeing what was available or obtainable with each pick. I also have a decently strong dependency to position selection, which isn't something I usually do with mock drafts. I usually lean more towards BPA, best player available, but I decided to do it here because this Cardinals team needs restructuring and a structure. It also needs to decide its strengths and identity. And what better way to do that than through the draft? Cardinals also have a lot of draft capital, so if I take a player that was a few spots off from where they're more likely to be taken, I'm going to write that up both to draft randomness and the fact that in a real draft they'd be able to trade up. I've also given some other player options for each pick, so that if the number one guy at each pick isn't available, they can look to someone else at similar caliber or plays a similar position as a replacement or a plan B. So let's get right into it with pick number 1. Malik Neighbors is a threat at all 3 levels of the receiving field. He is a superb athlete with high-end stop-start ability. He has a high IQ at the receiving position, both in route concepts and sitting in soft zones. Neighbors has elite body control at the catch point. His ability to be an artist at each stop of a reception is fantastic. From getting open to making the catch, to then moving in open space and hunting the end zone. His upside is insane. I fully project him to be an all-pro caliber receiver at the next level. His player comparison is DJ Moore, but that may be shooting too low even. What I expect from him as a Cardinal is to be the free yards guy, meaning he will be given the brunt of the screens and open space targets. Kyler Murray will find a liking to his ability to work down the field and gain large chunks for them as well. I don't expect Neighbors to be in the slot all that much unless it's a route to get him into free space. I don't want Neighbors to be subjected to the middle of the field all that much, given that the middle of the field and Kyler Murray don't really get along. I don't have another player option here since it's so early in the draft. If Malik Neighbors isn't here at 4, I'd be shocked and would assume that means that Marvin Harrison Jr. was passed up. In that case, the Cardinals could just select him. With the 27th pick, the Cardinals select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. This is one of the picks I have doubts with being available at this spot. Regardless, Kool-Aid has fallen a bit in terms of cornerback rankings, and since this is my personal Cardinals rebuild, we're going to go off of what I believe is possible, and I see a world where Kool-Aid does fall this far in the draft. Kool-Aid is a fantastic prospect with a great launch off point. He's coming into the pro league starting all of his reps from freshman year to junior year. He also plays with the same demeanor as someone with a lot of experience. He's intelligent when it comes to defensive schemes and positioning. He has an awesome understanding of countering through press coverage and realigning himself mid-play to make up for any lost ground. To summarize that point, his football instincts are one of the best in this class at his respective position. He's a great athlete with ideal size. In a straight line, he can match up with anyone. He has shown some weaknesses in athleticism due to lack of twitch and general burst, but his top speed makes up for it and assures me that he won't be outmatched at this level. With the signing of Steven Nelson, we'll be able to allow Kool-Aid to match up on the outside with the number 2 receiver on game days, giving Kool-Aid the opportunity to develop and be challenged at a fair rate. Kool-Aid has the upside of guys like Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, while also showing similarities to some other recently drafted players such as Christian Gonzalez. One main difference between him and those guys is general athleticism, mainly in overall speed and quickness, but like I said, I'm not worried about that with Kool-Aid. Other players available at this spot may include Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Kamari Lassiter, and TJ Tampa. With the 35th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select T'Vondre Sweat, defensive tackle out of Texas. Sweat is a massive nose tackle in this 2024 class, and any class for that matter. Sweat's size, athletic ability, and strength are key factors to his potential success in the NFL. Another needed addition to help this defense in the run game. The signing of DJ Reader gives Sweat a couple of years to get himself established in the league. In a division where you have to play Kyron Williams, Kenneth Walker, and least we forget Christian McCaffrey, it's important that the Cardinals establish a game plan to combat that. Sweat has a lot to prove in this league to show that he can make it. His size does raise negative questions around his health, conditioning, and effort, which will be constantly questioned. But he showed this year at Texas he's capable of doing just those things. I don't have a player comp for him. Sweat is on a path of his own. Other players that can be taken here include Chris Jenkins, Leonard Taylor, and potentially Byron Young. With the 66th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Cooper Beebe, offensive guard from Kansas State. At this point now, with the rest of the prospects, I'll just give a quicker overview of them and why I have the Cardinals taking them. Cooper Beebe plays with an incredibly high motor. He actively looks for someone to block each step of a play. I believe he'll make an immediate impact in the run game, also having a chance to learn pass protection over the course of the next few years. He had a lot of starts at Kansas State and shows his experience on the field. He's also built like fridge. His player comparison is, funny enough, Will Hernandez. With the 71st pick, the Cardinals select Peyton Wilson, linebacker, NC State. In my eyes, Peyton Wilson is the #1 off-ball linebacker in this draft class. The reason for him falling to the spot is due to his injury risk, not to mention Wilson is actively dealing with an injury. Despite all that, he'll still be one of the first few linebackers taken off the board. He checks every box you could ask for from an off-ball linebacker, from size to athleticism, gap discipline, covering players and not grass, and zone coverage. Wilson is the complete total package. Wilson reminds me a lot of Matt Milano with a better frame. His injury risk is even bigger than Milano's has been though. When it's all said and done, we could be looking at a player similar to Zach Cunningham. Wilson is a gamble. Other players that could be taken here are Jeremiah Trotter and Junior Colson. With the 90th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Josh Newton, cornerback out of TCU. Newton shows better pressability than assumed. He also has advanced hands that are capable to disrupt the catch point downfield, as well as solid hands at the line of scrimmage. He is physical and fights for the ball. He does a great job of playing the run and being willing to do so, which differs from his 2022 film. While Newton lacks top-end speed, he is quick and shifty and should find himself in DB rotation on this defense. Newton reminds me of a diet Trayvon Diggs. Other potential players to select here are DJ James, Kyrie Jackson, and Nehemiah Pritchett. Hold on a second. I said diet Trayvon Diggs, by the way, let's just clear that up. With the 105th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Christian Jones, offensive tackle out of Texas. Christian Jones is an all-rounded, solid player. Jones proved himself at the Senior Bowl, showing to be one of the more experienced players in this draft class. He isn't a high-ceiling guy by any means, but I expect him to be starting for this team in the near future. He is one of my favorite O-linemen in this class. Given his athleticism, there's a shot he profiles better as a guard. At this point in the draft, I'm looking for offensive linemen rather than a specific position, so that's chill with me. Jones can be a solid rotational guy that's super helpful in early rushing downs. He reminds me of Titus Howard. Blake Fisher, Javion Foster are some other dudes that could be taken here. With the 137th pick, the Cardinals select Muhammad Kamara, edge from Colorado State. While he lacks ideal NFL length, he is still a big man at 6'1", 250 pounds. He has one of the best first steps in this class at his position and can seriously do any pass rushing move he wants. I hope he can work on the timing of his punches, which is a big deal considering he does have lackluster length for the league. I still see him finding a role in the NFL, and for now he can work on the rotation on the edge for the Cardinals. He has the athleticism to be flexed all over the D-line, which is perfect for the Cardinals. I've seen him get compared to Ogbo Okoronkwo, and that sounds good enough to me. The Cardinals may also find themselves drafting Austin Booker and Cedric Johnson if Kamara is unavailable. That's going to wrap up this rebuild, though, and commentary, whatever you want to call it. To recap, we signed Robert Hunt at guard, DJ Reader at defensive tackle, and Steven Nelson at corner. We also drafted Malik Neighbors, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Devondre Sweat, Cooper Beebe, Peyton Wilson, and Josh Newton with our picks in the first 3 rounds. I had a lot of fun making this video and trying to rebuild this team. Like I said earlier, more than rebuild this team, I just kind of wanted to talk about them and show that they're kind of a few steps away and talk a lot about how the environment that they have going on is great. And although they lost a lot of games last year, they had a lot of really close ones. And like I said, they had upsets and played well. I believe in Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I'm a little on the fence about Jonathan Gannon, but regardless, he still proved me wrong. I thought they were going to fire him after this year, and they only had 4 wins, but it could have been a lot worse, and I think he had a hand in that, so good for him. I hope it works out in Arizona. I think people are going to assume I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan. I am not at all. love football, and this seemed like an interesting talking point to me. It's something that's been on my mind a lot lately. I'd love to make this a yearly series because I do genuinely pick a team every year that's starting at the bottom, and as long as they do well, you know, I follow and I'm a fan of... Oh my god, I'm a bandwagon. Okay, really quick before I head out, a couple things to clarify. I make a lot of assumptions and implications in this video, so realize it's all out of fun, and while it isn't completely realistic, I tried my best to be accurate with the info I used and not be misleading with anything. I also want to clarify that by no means do I think the Cardinals are Super Bowl bound this next season. I just feel like we're going to see a lot of growth, and if they handle the offseason well and drafting well, genuinely, if they're able to pull off what I was able to do in this video, which it's a lot easier to do in a video and just say everything, you know, I could just be like,
and then I'll have them sign Patrick Mahomes for $4 or whatever.
Being semi-realistic and also being ideal with it, if they can pull some stuff like this off, I think they're going to be in a really good place next year. Like I said, I believe in Kyler Murray. I like what's going on down there. The culture is great. And with the Lions comparisons, again, not on the same path as the Lions. They're on their own thing. But it did remind me a little bit when we're talking about teams that aren't good and then aren't good for a year, but it's a different kind of not good. And that's what I felt like happened with the Cardinals this last season. So I thought I'd point it out. If I have to make a prediction on them next season at this point, pre-free agency, pre-draft and everything, if they do well, assuming that they do fine in free agency in the draft, I think this could easily be a 9-win team next year. I'm not lying about that at all. I'm pretty serious. I want to make more videos like this, so please subscribe for more and hit that like button as well. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.